This is the beginning of something that is absolutely deeply meaningful for us as a society, for our future generations' evolvement, and a subject that's absolutely near and dear to my heart personally. I don't want to jump into content really fast. What I'd like to do is lay a really strong, solid foundation for what my intention is here. So as you listen to this channel in the future, today and upcoming, you're not just hearing information, but you're actually like absorbing information and digesting it in a way that you understand the patterns driving the direction that our society is going and why it matters. Evolvement requires us to sit in the pain of realization so that we can take it a step further and experience the uncomfortable again and again so we make it familiar. It's not about adding more things to do or trying to manage your mindset or life in a better way. It's really about something deeper. It's about understanding yourself at a level where your patterns are actually created. When you understand that, everything else starts to make more sense. The way you feel, the way you think, the way you react, the way you show up in your relationships, in your parenting, in your business, in your life as a whole. You see, this first episode is about setting that foundation, slowing things down so we can start to look at something that most people don't take the time to really see. Because what we're talking about here builds on itself. Each layer, each episode, each realization is going to connect. If you stay with me through this, you're going to start seeing yourself in a completely different way. This place is not from judgment. It's a place of understanding. And that's where real change can begin. So I want you to slow down and just take a minute so you can really hear this next part. Because the way that we were attuned to as children is what is actually driving our beliefs, our thoughts, our actions, and our relationships. It drives absolutely everything, especially how you respond to overwhelm. I'm not sure how many of us actually slow down long enough to really digest the depths of what it means to change. Because when you really sit with it, it changes the way you see yourself. And what I've noticed is working with clients, honestly working with myself over the last few years, and the commonalities that I see across those two planes, but also across the child therapists that I've seen, the somatic practitioners, the relationship therapists, the psychotherapists, all of these books that I've read, everybody in the healing community, everything that we do, it just goes to show that these patterns are there. And it shows that we respond to the world around us at any given moment is fundamentally rooted in our childhood. I don't think we really let that land. You see, I think most people, in my opinion, are going around living life believing that who they are is just who they are, and that they don't have the ability to change their trigger responses. What I've come to realize is that people like to adapt an identity, and then they live from that identity, sometimes without even realizing that it was ever formed, without realizing it was created. They don't realize that it was a learned behavior based on their experiences because of what they had, what they felt like they had to do to be loved, accepted, so they could feel safe in the world and feel like they belong. You see, we've become these versions of ourselves, and we move through life in that way, thinking that it's just us, without ever really questioning where it came from. And that's where it really gets important and deep, because if we've learned as a child to give up our needs so that we could be safe, so we could be okay, so that we didn't express ourselves to keep peace, so that we got punished when we made mistakes, those things don't just go away. You carry it with you throughout yourself, in your relationship with yourself, in your relationships outwardly, in your parenting styles, in your management styles, in your leadership and coaching styles. It is how you show up in the world and how you respond when things are overwhelmed. Because overwhelm isn't just what's happening right now. It comes from a learned, programmed response about how to handle what it feels like when too much is happening. And most of all, what we learned when we were a child. What ends up happening is our subconscious mind is constantly scanning. It's deciding, am I safe? Am I not safe? Do I need to protect? Do I need to shut down? Do I need to push through? Do I need to perform? And it does whatever it feels like it needs to do based on what it learned back then. And it's not necessarily true to today's environment. So we keep recreating these same patterns over and over again. And what we think is okay, what we think is not okay, what we say, what we don't say, what we allow, what we tolerate, what we believe we deserve, we don't question it because it feels normal. And when you zoom out, you realize that it's not just individual, it's societal. We are living in a world right now that is built on instant gratification, constant stimulation, and reacting instead of understanding. We have been built to go fast. We have no idea how to slow down. We have no idea how to sit with things, especially uncomfortable things. We don't question where our beliefs and our thoughts come from. We just judge, we label, we decide good, bad, right, wrong. We don't even understand what's really beneath it. And I want to say this because it's really important. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. We have adapted, we've learned, we've been programmed. We've become who we needed to be in the environment that we were raised in because it helped us survive. And you're alive still, and that's what matters. Because you're here still. What also matters is at some point you start to see how those patterns were created without judging them, not trying to fix them or change them, but just to see them, just to notice them, to become aware. Awareness is where it starts. Because when we can step back and observe ourselves instead of reacting or proving or defending, we create space. And when we create space, we create room to understand and to choose instead of repeat. This is really just the beginning of this conversation because over the next few episodes, I am going to start breaking this down bit by bit, where the patterns come from, how they form, where they show up in your relationships, in your parenting, and in your day-to-day life. So you can really start to see yourself differently. Not as something that's broken, but as something that was shaped and that can now be understood. Because with that, everything changes.